The year is 2004. A new family just moved in across the street, so we invite them over to have dinner. While the boring parents sit and talk about boring stuff, my brother and I bring the new kid, Mark, upstairs to play video games. As we're playing Mario Kart Double Dash, Mark asks us, "Hey, have you guys ever played RuneScape?" My brother and I looked at each other and shook our heads. RuneScape? What's that? Mark jumped onto our computer, opened up Firefox, and he showed us. RuneScape. It was a world to get lost in, a world to explore, quests to complete, monsters to slay, wood to chop, ore to mine, and players to kill. A world not separated by any form of paywall. Well, except for the membership, but we'll get into that later. A game playable on just about every browser. So anywhere there was internet, there's RuneScape. Funny enough, this MMORPG is also coming to iOS and Android with PC cross-platform play. Shit, you can play RuneScape on a tablet now. I mean, the game was so accessible you could run it on your grandma's computer. And just to be clear, I'm talking about old school RuneScape, the one we all know and love. And since I had to start over and won't have time to grind my character alongside making this video, I'll give a source for any footage I use that isn't mine. RuneScape was the first time many of us had ventured into online gaming, but this wasn't like StarCraft custom games or Halo 2 matchmaking. This was something different. This was an entire world ripe for exploration and discovery. Looking at it now, you might think, wow, those are some ghetto-ass graphics, acting male. But back then, RuneScape was something entirely new. It was a living, breathing video game. The towns and NPCs would be the same, but when you'd log in, the people would be different. It was such an enchanting, mind-blowing thing to experience, and it was all something you could share with your friends. But man of acting, I didn't have any friends. Boo-hoo. Well, then you could make friends, my friend. There weren't many games like it at the time. It didn't have much competition, and thus many players would discover this new type of online community RPG game. But have you ever stopped to think, what was it that made RuneScape so special? Why did it become such a cultural phenomenon? Why was RuneScape so awesome? I aim to answer those questions and give a bit of my personal experience as well. Hopefully you feel compelled to share your experiences in the comments as well. So let's mine some copper, praise Zizima, and buying GF straight into this. The story of RuneScape, and I mean the development, is something of a dream come true for both the creators and the players. It was originally going to be a text-based game, then the first public beta was released on January 4th, 2001. At this time, the creators, the Gower brothers, were working out of their parents' house. Of course, since its first public release, the game would have countless changes, updates, and new content added. To think a game could be created by two brothers, with nothing more than passion, time, and an idea, could turn that game into a worldwide phenomenon, is nothing short of a dream come true. Now, RuneScape Classic was the original version of the game, and was one of the first MMORPGs. Alongside it were other games like Asheron's Call, EverQuest, and Ultima Online. But RuneScape 2 was really what brought this genre into the mainstream. It broke and holds several astonishing records, such as most users of an MMO video game, the most prolifically updated MMORPG, most original pieces of music in a video game, and of course, the most popular free MMORPG in the world. Just the idea of what an MMORPG was, to many gamers, was something they'd never seen or heard about. So the appeal of RuneScape was trimmed into stone. Now, for most of my game reviews, I always bring up the negatives so I'm not just stroking the game's nuts for 20 to 30 minutes. But with RuneScape, I will say, without a doubt, I don't have many honest criticisms to make of it, other than the shady people in it, but not much wrong with the game itself. If something comes to me, I'll mention it, but any negatives this game had never really bothered me. I mean, if you didn't like the game, it's free to play, so no loss on your part. And I think this lack of critique that is escaping my mind at the moment is partially due to the fact that you could do whatever you wanted. Oh wait, there was one thing, was how annoying it was to be walking around doing stuff and see this "you need to be a member to access this feature" message. Dude, I'm 12 years old. $5 a month is my life savings. That was always a tease that frustrated the hell out of me. I mean, sure, it might have been a grindy type of game, but if you enjoyed that grind, then that's all that mattered. It was always satisfying in my experience, slowly building and working your way up, making a name for yourself, building and choosing your talents, unlocking new features and areas to explore. The game was a dream come true for kids and teenagers who didn't have any money to spend on video games or even a console. Being free to play and accessible through just about every computer meant anybody could make an account and play. A game not restricted by a rating system that people of all ages could immerse themselves in. To be honest, I booted up RuneScape for shits and giggles. I hadn't played it in years. Thought it would be fun to try it again. I thought I'd record some gameplay, get bored within 30 minutes, and then that would be the end of it. But I was hooked again. That wondrous, exciting feeling I got back in 2004, I felt once more, but this time with a lot more nostalgia. What was most impressive about RuneScape was just how big, open, and free it was. My friends and I were always enthralled by Morrowind when that came out, and this was like playing Morrowind and seeing other people playing Morrowind. After doing the tutorial, you could go and do anything you pleased. Of course, you'd have to level up to stand a chance against higher level enemies, but hey, you want to go do quests? You can go do quests. You want to spend 3 hours chopping wood and light fires? You want to rock out above a pit and pretend you're a king? You could do anything, at any time. There was no main quest and you weren't forced to do anything except the tutorial. Maybe you wanted to level up your prayer for a bit, then you'd go kill cows, cook some meat, sell some stuff, whatever you want to do, baby. The game had several events and festivities which gave players more reasons to keep coming back. It kept the game fresh and added new things for players to do. Even for this last December, they had a Christmas event. It's kinda crazy to think they're still adding new stuff to this game, like a free-to-play quest and a new area to explore. Guess that shows the level of dedication Jagex has for old-school RuneScape despite its age. This medieval-themed world was different, unique, with memorable towns, NPCs, and quests to do. Al-Kharid was my favorite, and if you were the wild or crazy sort, you could go to the wilderness for some PvP action. Anytime I ever went there, I got my ass kicked, so I never fucking went to the wildy after that. But I always heard legends of the great plunder that could be found there. I heard tales about sneak attacks, horrifying stories about players who lost the most valuable gear they had.
Wake me up inside. Wake me up inside.
I heard many things about the mysterious and deathly lands known as the wilderness. And that's such a cool idea to have a part of the world be specifically about PvP combat, and you could go there anytime. Now, one thing that was tedious was actually navigating through the world. I mean, once you got teleportation runes and spells and stuff like that, it was a lot easier, and it was pretty gay for Jagex to make an ability allowing you to travel the world faster, but made that a member ability. It was pretty tedious at times, but that wasn't a huge problem for me. What's funny is coming back to this game, things have changed since the last time I played. But I remember the world, I remember the names, points of interest, I remember the good spots for leveling up your skills, I remember the routes I used to take. I remember the world of RuneScape like it was the city I grew up in. I think that's a sign of a truly memorable game. I mean, I've played World of Warcraft and the Old Republic, some other MMOs, but none of them had the charm or were as interesting to me as RuneScape was. I was never so immersed in a world where I could forge my own destiny as I was with RuneScape. Alright, I actually have another negative thing to say about RuneScape. The combat could be pretty frustrating at times. I mean, how many goddamn times do I have to hit this chicken and do no damage? It's a fucking chicken! Die, you piece of shit! Yeah, the combat and movement in general was always kinda clunky, but that was part of the charm. It was a simple game at its core. But there was so much more to it than just combat. That was just one piece of the puzzle. You could honestly beat the tutorial and just spend all your time fishing or cutting wood without even fighting enemies. You progress through the game how you choose to progress. And that sense of freedom is something almost entirely exclusive to RuneScape. But there is something about this game that just keeps me coming back. Even as I write this, I want to go play. Want to know what it is? Buying girlfriends like a fucking pimp. Progression, kids. As I said, the game can be pretty grindy, and when you start off at level 3, you're at the point where you have the fewest options for what to do next. But as you level up, you can fight stronger enemies, take on harder quests. As you increase your skills, you can craft new items, you can sell and trade more, chop down more valuable trees, or smith better armor. The more you played RuneScape, the more there was to do in RuneScape. I guess that's what made it so addicting. It offered a huge variety of tasks, quests, mini-games that it never really got boring. And that feeling of, what's next? What can I do next? What ore can I mine now? That feeling of progression was so satisfying. I mean, you'd start off with some shitty-ass chef's head and a bronze blade. You'd look like shit, and then you'd see some dude walking around with crazy-ass dragon armor, and you'd be like, I want me some of that. I want me some of that. Because the items had value, and players could see that. It'd give them something to strive for because you wanted to be that guy walking around in dragon armor, looking like a badass. Another thing that made the gameplay and progression so fun was back then, my friends and I didn't really use the internet to learn everything about the game. In those days, we just played it and discovered everything on our own. Nowadays, I feel like people just look up everything about a game, and to me that kind of ruins the experience. RuneScape was also a ground to compete with others. Yeah, in PvP, but also in buying, selling, trading. The higher your skills, the more you could do than other people in the game. You could set goals like, I'm gonna mine till I hit level 30, then I'm gonna make some dope-ass armor. And it was always rewarding to reach those personal goals you had. Again, having friends to play with, you'd be competing with them, and at the lunch table you'd be able to either talk shit or hear someone else talk shit. It was something of a race between you and your peers, kind of like how being really good at Halo or getting a nuke in Call of Duty was something that gave you bragging rights. I want to ask you watching this video right now, have you ever played a really long RPG? Then you stopped playing it for a few weeks or a month and found you couldn't get back into it, you just couldn't? For some games, it's hard to jump back into playing them after taking a break, because you might forget what was going on in the story or what you were supposed to be doing. But with RuneScape, you could easily take breaks and log back in where you left off, without feeling like you forgot what the story was about or how to play. Above all else, RuneScape was a fun way to pass the time. For middle schoolers, kids in elementary, if you finished all your homework, you'd get on RuneScape because why not grind a few levels before you go to bed? The game had a lot of classic RPG mechanics. No matter what you were doing, you were always building your skills, building your character to be better. It may have had its fair share of cliché medieval tropes, but it was the way RuneScape incorporated all these ideas to make a truly unique and satisfying game. But above all else, the graphics in RuneScape were groundbreaking. That was a joke, okay? You're supposed to laugh. There we go. RuneScape had something that many games don't or try to fake, and that's charm. The graphics are timeless in my opinion. Its style is like a medieval game but with comedic elements. It's a chill kind of game, doesn't demand a whole lot from you. It's classic as fuck. You see someone playing RuneScape and you know exactly what it is. There's no other game that looks and feels like this. And it doesn't take itself too seriously, which would be hard to do anyways when your eyes are black slits and you've got a pink freaking beard. The armor, weapons, equipment might not have been as high-res as Skyrim's Ultra HD Mod 2017, but it looked cool. It looked interesting, and RuneScape showed that graphics aren't everything. It showed us that you can have a simple visual style and make it work. and that what matters more is the heart and soul of the game. I mean, RuneScape does look hilarious, all the emotes and the sheer ridiculousness of the way characters look, the running animation. The NPCs were always pretty goofy and funny. You never knew what sort of random nonsense you'd hear when you talked to an NPC. They all had character, and in a world as vast as RuneScape, that is quite impressive. Even if you hate this game and think it's the worst thing ever, nobody can deny that RuneScape has character. It's funny and creative. It parodies several of the medieval cliches, like Romeo and Juliet, and separates itself from becoming a cliché medieval game. Every single quest is packed with jokes and brilliant writing. It's glorious to be able to take a break from all the grinding and get a few laughs while questing and talking to NPCs. But it's the music that really nails it for me. I mean, you go to the comment sections of some of these RuneScape songs, and it's all people reminiscing. All people that love the game. Music was fun, it was joyous, unique, and catchy as hell. Even better is the game allows you to play which songs you want to hear. Again, I don't remember any other game giving you an option like that. The simplistic sound effects are pretty funny as well, they get the job done. It almost feels like something out of an old Atari game. Again, reinforcing that classic feeling. Part of RuneScape's charms were its quests. Other MMORPGs and a lot of other regular RPGs just throw a bunch of shitty, pointless quests at you that you could care less about, but not RuneScape. Again, choices. You had to seek the quests out yourself. You didn't have to do them, you weren't forced to do them, and you weren't thrown a million quests in your face. Other RPGs and MMOs create this endless cycle of grinding fetch quests, kill X number of monsters, or talk to this guy then that guy, and that gets boring and tedious real fast. RuneScape was special because its quests were better than that. They had meaning behind them. They were all unique. They demanded different things from you, whether you had to collect a buttload of random items, or you had to be this combat level, or be this good in mining. You could rescue a desert prince, or make balls of wool for a crazy farmer. Remember those penguins pretending to be sheep? Like, what the fuck was that about? You could kill the local vampire threatening the townsfolk, and all these quests could be done in any order you damn well pleased. RuneScape was special and unique for a variety of reasons, not the least of which were its charm and quality quest design. Over the coming years, RuneScape would spread like wildfire through word of mouth. My brother and I found out about it through our neighbor at our mom's house, and when we were living at our dad's house, we told all the neighborhood kids about it. We showed them this incredible world they could play for free, and soon enough, all 10 kids in our neighborhood, at the time between the 1st and 8th grades, were all playing. We had our own community. It was like our neighborhood clan. Even the girls liked playing RuneScape. That's how great this game was. So often we'd play outside during the day, then when it got dark we'd go inside and get on RuneScape and just do whatever. We all had stories to tell about our travels. One inside joke was our friend claimed she died in the tutorial, and we discovered that was impossible. One of my buddies used to lead the younger kids into the wild and kill them to take their loot, and this one time his mom got pissed at him for doing that to his sister. Another great memory I have is me and Axbro and one of my best buds all conspired to make an account called Sexy Poop Monk, which we'd use to harass other people in the neighborhoods. Ah, good times. But it didn't stop there. Word spread, and soon enough everyone at school either played or at least knew about RuneScape. We'd brag at the lunch table about our highest skills or about the secrets we discovered, how good our armor was. RuneScape was something we all had in common, and I made so many friends through playing and talking about the game with others. I guess the point I'm trying to make is the best things in life are those you share with others. And that might be a bit cheesy in regards to a video game, but it's honestly true. RuneScape wouldn't have been nearly as fun if it weren't for all the people I knew that I was playing it with. I'm sure the same goes for most other RuneScape players. That nostalgia, those memories from years ago, is why some people just can't leave the game for good. Even if you play like an hour a month, it's hard to leave a game you invested so much time in and had so many great memories. Of course, as with all trends, one by one, we all just stopped playing. All us neighborhood kids are still good friends to this day. And even though we don't play it anymore, every now and then, we bring up the glory days of RuneScape. We bring up the nostalgic memories, and all the stories and fun that came along with it. One of the best and worst things about RuneScape was its community. Sure, there were always people looking to take advantage of younger, more naive players. I myself lost my first account that had level 55 mining and combat level 42 to the stupidest fucking trick in the book. Some guy said, hey, if you type out your password, it censors it, and I was like, no way, let me try that. Next time I tried to log in, poof, gone. Now, that might not sound like a lot of big stats to some of you, but for a young kid who didn't know shit about this game and did things in the most inefficient ways possible, I was damn proud of that. But even then, I wasn't discouraged because my friends were down to give me some new gear on a new account. Again, that circle of friends and community pulled through for me and helped me out. Though it sucked to lose my account, I did learn a valuable lesson that day. I mean, sure, that guy who wanted to trim your armor just fucking stole it from you. That girl probably isn't a real girl and is using you for free shit. But if you know about these shady tricks, then you never fall for them. Since so many people played RuneScape back in the day, the game of course is the subject of countless beautiful memes. You might think it's silly bringing up the importance of memes to RuneScape, but I think it goes to show the love people have for the game. These memes wouldn't have been posted or made if a lot of people hadn't played RuneScape and understood the memes. The community of this game was truly something special. You'd be mining for a bit and just say, hey, what's up to some guy, start having a conversation with random people. Sometimes you'd make a friend or you'd find someone who had just what you were looking to trade for. Sometimes it was just so fun to try and trade with a random person and see what they had to offer. Oftentimes I'd try to trade with super high level players and they'd put up all this super expensive shit, adamant trimmed armor, 100k gold, and I'd offer to trade a fucking pot or something. Watching their reactions was always priceless. It was fun to troll people as long as it was harmless, you know? The world was your oyster, and you were free to make it in any way you could think of. You could have been that one douche who convinced some nublet to follow you into the wildie, where you then proceeded to penetrate his tight, noobling anus and take his gear. The gods of luck could smile on you. Maybe you'd be walking around and see someone dropping gold, runes, or other useful items just because they felt like it. As I was killing cows, I saw this studded armor, and since I had like 20 gold, selling that stuff for 600 gold was like a mini miracle. While I was killing cows, this guy came up and offered me a rune dagger for free. I put up 300 gold and then he offered a gold ring, and just gave it to me like that. Later on, in the same area, same day, some guy just gives me a rune scimitar, the best free-to-play weapon in the whole game. That would have blown my balls away if I was still a kid. Some people in RuneScape were really nice. I remember I'd made a friend online whose name I've long forgotten, and he was someone I always talked to. We'd give each other free stuff just because we enjoyed the game and helping each other out. The idea of having multiple worlds or servers was awesome too. If you wanted a more lively, popular experience, if you like to see more people running about or wanted to trade, you could go to one of the big servers. Or if you wanted to make sure you could mine all that good ore, wood, or whatever by yourself, you could log into a less populated server. Unfortunately, RuneScape had a huge problem with bots, and I think to this day it still does. But you can hardly blame the game for that. Maybe Jagex could have cracked down on that harder to make the world more authentic. But Jagex also added polls, allowing players to vote democratically on new updates, features, and that's a really cool way to get players involved in the game and updates themselves. I mean, what other game actually does that? Allows players to vote on future content? I don't know of any. It's kind of crazy to think a game like this would have its own economy. You could trade whatever for whatever, and it was up to the players to decide what had value and what didn't. So you could find out you got a really good deal on some armor, or you paid twice the price for an item. Each trade making you wiser and more knowledgeable about the economy. Certain items were given out for special events like the party or Santa hats, and those became valuable collector's items. In fact, RuneScape's economy was so powerful, some items and accounts were worth real money. Loads of money, too. Not to mention, if you saw someone with a Santa or party hat, you knew they were either a long-time player or were rich as balls. And you couldn't make a RuneScape video without mentioning the god himself, Zazima, the first e-celebrity I had ever known about, and the paragon of RuneScape. This dude was top of the charts. For so many consecutive years, he had level 99 in everything. This one time I was lucky enough just to see him, just to get a glimpse of Zazima, and he was being followed by like 50 freaking people, just all asking for stuff, just shouting, "Oh my god, it's Zazima," and I was just hoping that a slight bit of his greatness might rub off on me. If you were good enough at RuneScape, you could basically become a god. That's another thing, the forums and leaderboards surrounding this game was always fun to look at. You could brag about being on the leaderboards for a particular skill or get some tips from other players. Even now, 12 years since I last played, I could talk to some of my new friends, people I've met through my channel, bring up RuneScape and hear about all the memories they had, what they liked most about it. This sharing of experiences and memories is what gave the game such a deep personal connection. And in the spirit of community, I invited some of my friends and Patreon supporters to come give their brief thoughts on RuneScape.
Whenever I look back and I think of the best memories of RuneScape, it is probably questing with some of my friends that I had back in the day, really.
My fondest memories were getting into a world that was like a fantasy setting for the first time ever. It was such an experience that I had never seen in any other games because I only played linear single player games on like PS2 or whatever at the time.
My most fondest memories is just the adventure and the exploration of RuneScape with like this whole new world that I could explore, discovering new places, discovering what's there.
One of the things that pulled me to RuneScape when I was younger is that the world was still very mysterious. I didn't know like the most efficient ways to level stuff. I didn't know the most efficient money making guides. I didn't know the best gear. I just sort of it felt like a true adventure because I was sort of just going off on a limb and doing what I thought was best.
I don't have a specific memory in particular, like one event, but I think it's more a collection of time spent with the friends I made on RuneScape. This was kind of before the day where internet forums were really big as far as like discussing, your favorite games and all that. So all your interaction came from the people you met in the game, and I can just remember countless nights staying up way past my bedtime, chopping stupid trees or catching shrimps or whatever, just chatting about little 12-year-old life with my RuneScape friends. And that was I think important for my social development, but it was also just really fun times.
Probably the best thing about RuneScape as a kid, I started playing RuneScape when I was in 7th grade, I think. And as a 7th grader, you don't have any money. And so just the idea of there's this free game that is relatively fun and I can come back to every single day. And there's always something new to do. And it's free. That definitely had something to do with it.
For even a little kid like me to find my way, to level up and to max out whatever I wanted, do like whatever I wanted to do. It's something that's always going to be special to you. It's always going to have that nostalgia. Just talking about it makes me want to go play it again and actually do more.
Back then, people didn't care about efficiency. People didn't care about making money or XP gains and that kind of thing. It's just such a casual adventure game. Back then, people just didn't care because no one knew what to do either. And that was the fun of RuneScape, was that you didn't know anything, and it's just discovering all these new things was part of what made it such a great game.
It was how I met friends on RuneScape. Me and my friends from school, back before Skype existed and even before MSN was a thing, a popular thing at least. We used to get home from school and just talk to each other on RuneScape. World 15 was the thing back in the day. Everyone from my school would get on World 15 and we'd just talk all night on RuneScape. For me, RuneScape is the one MMO that I've played where I've genuinely made friends on the game that have lasted.
Looking back, I think RuneScape was a game that taught me more about a lot of things than any game really has any business doing. It taught you about how economies work. It taught you about how friendships work. It taught you about, saving your money and setting goals and having aspirations. And so I think the best thing about RuneScape as a whole was, just the lessons you could take from it.
Overall, RuneScape is a game that is truly one of a kind. I admit, without the nostalgia of playing it all those years ago, I probably wouldn't have ever touched it, but it's because I had such fond memories that I thought it worthy to return, that it still holds a place in my heart. As gay as that sounds, RuneScape was so awesome in part because it was simple to understand, free, and easily accessible. The game had a great community and an economy that made the world feel alive. It was the first time many players had experienced an MMORPG and discovering what that was. It had so much charm in its graphics, sounds, music, quests and characters. The world was so expansive and free, with so many things to do and so many things to see. Last but not least, the core gameplay was fun as hell. The grind was enjoyable, satisfying, and the progression addicting. After all this time, I never thought I'd touch RuneScape or get back into it, but I think I'll keep this new account. I think I'll keep playing, at least every now and then. And who knows, maybe some of you will make a new account or remember your old one. You'll hop on and hit me up. Maybe I can experience old school, classic RuneScape the same way I did 13 years ago, with all these friends and buddies playing it and sharing it with me. It's hard to describe a game that has impacted so many lives and made so many people happy, but I hope I was able to describe how you had been feeling all along. And that is why RuneScape was so awesome. I'd like to give a big shout out to my patron, Squeegliees, who has just become a $50 patron. That is incredible, my dude. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to The Act Man for more awesome content. Alright everyone, that's all I got for today. This is The Act Man signing out. Peace!